one of the other things that I wanted to be able to cover is readiness,
Right.
because the other side of that coin is we can have a great idea, we can see a lot of different things, and we
Mhm.
can know that we can solve someone's problem. But are
Yeah.
they ready to be able to solve that problem? Are they ready to hear that there's a solution?
Yeah.
And if we're talking to someone that's not ready, that's when a no is a not right now.
Yeah.
So readiness is also important. When are you having that conversation with people based on the conversations you're having? Like, we'll talk about business models and we'll say, okay, well, is the business model sound? Yes.
Yeah.
Check. And then
Yeah.
you kind of work through everything else in your checklist. Where does that start to fall into play for you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm having that conversation right at the start of me meeting that person, right?
Mm,
Again, you're not always going to get through to everyone, right? And
yeah.
so, there is actually some efficacy in having people fail, right? Failure is
Yeah.
part of the process, right? So you got to understand as a consultant, whatever you view yourself to be, you know, you got to tell people what they need to hear, but they may not be ready to accept it. But the analogy I'll use is if someone's an addict, right? It doesn't work, recovery service, it doesn't work until the addict has reached the bottom and says,
Yeah.
want to change, right? And now I'm
Yeah.
going to accept, counseling or whatever it is that they need to go through to get out of where they're at. You can tell them, hey, you need to go to therapy all you want, as many times as you want. But again, until they reach that point mentally where they're like, I need this and I'm
Mhm.
going to do the work to get out of where I'm at, it's not going to work. Right. So if you're, again, whether you consider yourself a coach or whatever it is you consider yourself to be, you can tell people what they need to do. And I'm an advocate of, I'm going to tell you what you need to do right up front, and I'll tell you why. And you may push back, and we'll go back and forth. But at the end of the day, I always tell people you can lead it's the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't
Mhm.
drink. And I
Yeah.
transpose that to say, I can lead an entrepreneur to knowledge, but I can't make them think. So I'll tell you what you need to hear. I hope you accept it, but you may not, because you may not be ready for it.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready for it, more than likely you're going to fail. Small businesses already have an 80% failure rate. So the probability
Yes.
you're going to fail is incredibly high, and particularly if you're not listening to input that you need to hear. And so sometimes you need to let people fail, because again, what ends up happening is if they're truly an entrepreneur, the failure is, I got hit in the face, I got knocked down. Hopefully I'm getting myself back up, I'm dusting myself off, and I'm starting all over again. I more than likely am going to have to start over with a brand new business. But if I'm
Mm.
smart, I realize what advice could have helped me avoid getting punched in the face in the first place. Jeff mentioned that to me and I didn't listen. Hopefully now I've learned, I'll listen, you know. And so what ends up happening if you're the coach is they realize Jeff gave me that information. I didn't listen.
Mm.
Jeff actually had my best interests in mind. I
Yes.
want to go back to Jeff because I know he knows what he's talking about. And I know his information, the information he's trying to give me is valuable. I need to actually listen to him. So now when that person comes back to you as a client or customer, they're going to be loyal forever. You'll never have to worry about them ever leaving again, because now they understand your value, but it took failure for them to get there. That doesn't happen with everybody, but sometimes it happens, and it happens, unfortunately, a lot more than we'd like it to. But again,
Mm.
sometimes you just have to let people fail. Give them the information they need, but they got to process it their own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because you're speaking to a real struggle that I've had. It's something where when you see it and you know exactly what you're looking at, and it's like watching a car accident about to happen, and you're trying everything that you can, but it's almost to the point of it being inevitable.
Yeah,
So, what I would say in those situations is there are cautionary tales and predictive stories,
yeah, yeah,
and that's where you can say, "I've seen this before.
yeah.
This is what it looks like.
Right,
I know someone that went through something similar,
right.
and this is how this ended." And those are the types of stories that you can tell without someone necessarily feeling like you're attacking them. And those are the things where I had to kind of make that shift,
Yeah, yeah,
because I know that one of the things that I started off doing was because I've been looking at some of these things for decades. And when I see it, it's like, oh, that's what that is. Well, no, you don't understand, because it's like you're making it sound too simple. It's not that it's simple, it's that when you see the patterns And you know, with like once you can start to recognize the patterns, and you can say, okay, well, this is most likely what it is, and this
Right.
is how this would play out, and you can start to figure some of that stuff out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I had to switch from educating
Mhm.
to I provide observational education.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what to do
Yeah.
because if I tell you what to do,
Yeah.
there's so many people that go into entrepreneurship because they want to be their own boss.
Right.
They want to be the person that calls the shots and all the rest of that. So I had to realize I can give you guidelines.
Yeah.
I can tell you what it is that I think you're looking at.
Right.
Excuse me. Here's the path you're on. Here's the things that take place on this path.
Mhm.
And sometimes it will take someone seeing the first pattern, the second pattern, the third pattern before they go, oh, wait, okay, so you've been telling me all of this time that all of these things were going to happen. And then that's when they come back.
Right.
But if you expect someone to be able to get it on the first or the second thing, you are setting yourself up for disappointment.
Right.
And it's something that you have to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes back from taking things from the corporate side,
Mhm.
and it's also for not just the corporate side, but when people scale.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain point, you realize I don't want to have to come up with every single solution. I want to be able to find the right person that knows how to be able to come up with a solution. So I don't have to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
What makes me the smartest person in the room is knowing that I know who to bring in to be able to solve this problem or that problem or what have you. You not your job isn't to solve every single problem. Your job is to be able to identify when there's a problem and
Yeah.
who's the best person to be able to solve it. Sometimes that's you, sometimes that's someone else.
Right. Right.
And if you can start to acknowledge that, then that's when businesses start to be able to become more stable.
Yeah.
They get more scalable, and then that's when they can start to really be able to affect that failure rate. What is it? 20% first year, 30% second year. By the time you get to your fifth year, it's 50%.
Yeah.
And that was before. We're
Yeah.
not even counting AI
Yeah.
and all the rest of the things that make it so much easier to get into entrepreneurship. And
Right.
now that failure rate is going up even higher because there's just so many people that have opinions, but they're not necessarily educated opinions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're in an interesting place.